And they're not the squad, they are people.
I hear boom, 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 boom on my door. I hear these huge, violent bangs on my door, and then every door going into my office. I run over to G, and G just looks at me back, and he just goes, hide, run and hide. And so I run back into my office. I slam my door. There's another kind of like back area to my office, and I open it, and there's a closet and a bathroom. And I jump into my bathroom, and I immediately realized that I shouldn't have gone into the bathroom. I should have jumped in the closet. And so I open the door when all of a sudden I hear that whoever was trying to get inside got into my office. And then I realized that it's too late. That it's too late for me to get into the closet. And so I tried to I go back in, and I hide back in. And so I hide behind my door like this, like I'm here, and the bathroom door starts going like this, like the bathroom door is behind me, or rather in front of me, and I'm like this, and the door hinges right here, and I just hear, where is she? Where is she? And this was the moment where I thought everything was over. I mean, I thought I was going to die. And I had a lot of thoughts. You have a lot of thoughts, I think, when you're in a situation like that. I felt that if this was the journey that my life was taking, that I felt that things were going to be okay. And that, I had fulfilled my purpose. And so I look through this door hinge, and I see this white man in a black beanie just like open the door of my personal office and come inside the personal office and yell again, where is she? I have never been quieter in my entire life. I was just, I don't even know if I held my breath, but I was just, here behind there, and I just start sliding down. And then all of a sudden I hear my staffer G yell out, it's okay, come out. I'm still processing the end of my life when I come out. And I come out, and this man is a Capitol Police officer. Things weren't adding up. Like, there was no partner there. And no one was yelling. He wasn't yelling like, this is Capitol Police, this is Capitol Police. And he was looking at me in all of this anger and hostility. And at first, in my brain and in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, I just came from this super intense experience just now. Maybe I'm reading into this, right? Like, maybe I'm projecting, like something onto him that like, maybe I'm just seeing anger, but maybe he's not trying to be angry. But I talked to G, my legislative director, after the fact, and he said, no, I didn't know if he was there to help us or hurt us either. Like so many other communities in this country, like just that presence doesn't necessarily give you a clear signal if you're safe or not. He basically says, go down and go to this building. But he just says the name of the building. Doesn't say anything else. But we're so rattled in that moment. And the situation felt so volatile with this officer that I run over, I grab my bag, and we just start running over to that building. And it wasn't until we get to that building that we realize he didn't give us a specific location. He told us to go to a certain level of a certain building. And that level of that building was street level. And so we can hear, because the buildings were not secure yet, and this is around the time when the Capitol was being stormed, that we can like hear all of these rioters behind the glass of the doors, you know, and we have no specific location to go to. We're in the hallway. We're in like the Dunkin' Donuts of the basement, and we don't have any secure place to go. I saw Representative Porter walking into her office, and so I run back, and I knock on the door, and I'm just like bang, 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 and she opens, and I'm like, hey, Katie, can I shelter with you right now? And Katie's like, yeah, of course, come on in. Like, yeah, come on. And so we go into her office, and I'm at like a 10, right? Like I am at a full 10, fight or flight, thought I was going to die like 10 minutes ago, then thought I was going to die again, because I have to tell you that when I was banging on this door, I had thought, fully expected that by this point the building had been breached and there were people walking the hallways. Like this was what I had fully expected to be having been gone on in that moment. G and some of the other staffers are pushing like the couches up against the door. And you know, I had this thought then, and I, you know, so many have made this point since, but it's like all of these drills that people had on school shootings. These folks who tell us to move on, that it's not a big deal, that we should forget what's happened, or even telling us to apologize. These are the same tactics of abusers. And I'm a survivor of sexual assault. And I haven't told many people that in my life. But when we go through trauma compounds on each other. And so when I see this happen, how I feel and how I felt was not again. The reason why I think it's important for us to hold this to account is that because we know that if we do not hold people accountable, what they're asking for when they say, can we just move on, is that what they are asking is, can we just forget this happened so that I can do it again without recourse? And that's what these folks are asking. The folks who are saying we should move on, we shouldn't have accountability, etc., are saying, can you just forget about this so that we can, do it again? This is not about a difference of political opinion. This is about just like basic humanity. And that's what these people don't get.
Marjorie Taylor Greene needs to serve no functional role in our Congress. She has beliefs or lies around what happened in Sandy Hook, Las Vegas, 9/11, and yet, while her entire life is a lie about reality, she believes that because of my last name, I'm in possession of a laser that starts forest fires. You can't make this stuff up. It's crazy stuff. And she sits on the Education Committee. That's where the Republicans put her. I'm a dad. I'm part of no mob. I'm a dad whose daughter died because I sent her to school. Okay? I'm not part of a mob. Okay? However, there is a mob that wants to shut me up. It's not going to happen. It's going to be 3 years since my daughter was killed. The idea that we have to relitigate whether or not she was killed, the idea that I have to prove my daughter is in a cemetery, the idea that the other Sandy Hook families, Las Vegas families, 9/11 families have to prove this, it is infuriating.
The so-called plane that crashed into the Pentagon. It's odd, there's never any evidence shown for a plane in the Pentagon.
There is, of course, plenty of evidence of American Airlines Flight 77 with 58 passengers and a crew of 6 crashing into the Pentagon on 9/11.
Her denial of reality, her denial of facts, Her lies about reality and facts should not have a place in Congress. What really is concerning is the failure of the entire Republican establishment to disown her.
Q is a patriot. We know that for sure. I don't know who Q is, but I'm just going to tell you about it because I think it's something worth listening to.
While I'm exceptionally angry at her for not apologizing, for not disowning anything she has said, for in fact doubling down and saying I'm being attacked and then fundraising off of her lies, I'm even angrier at people like Kevin McCarthy and the others in the Republican establishment who have not forced it, who have not even said a word about it, who are willing to live with the lie because they are so weak. The Republican Party has now become a party that is so afraid of a cult that they refuse to do the work of America. They refuse to do what this country needs. They refuse to work in the realm of facts. We all should have listened more closely to Kellyanne Conway a few years ago when she said, we believe in alternative facts. That is their base now. It dabbles in alternative facts. That is the way they roll. It's not a few bad eggs. And I'm not sure that I would say it's the conservative movement. It's this current version of the Republican Party is what it is. It's been taken over by extremists. I think January 6th, we saw how letting a lie go unanswered resulted in that insurrection. Lies matter. And so we need to fight back with the truth.
Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer and the fake news media truly are the enemy of the American people.
I have no expectation that people are always going to agree with me or I'm going to agree with them. But the causticness, the disgusting approach, the lies, that's indecent. It's uncivil. It's bad for democracy.
There's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to take this global cabal of Satan-worshiping pedophiles out.
It's really simple. Tell the truth. Talk civilly. Stop with the caustic language. Stop demonizing. Stop making people you disagree with sound like they are less than you are. And if the only approach you have to governing is demonizing or dishonesty, then you shouldn't be governing. I just want to tell Marjorie Taylor Greene to stop playing in the snow and to stop writing in the snow and to write out her resignation letter. She's done enough damage.
And it was not, it was just more than a coincidence.
What happened with your Twitter account and the company page?
Well, first mine was taken down because we have all the election fraud with these Dominion machines. We have 100% proof. And then when they took it down about 3 weeks ago, and then I put it back up, my personal, it was a
Mike, thank you very much. Mike, you're talking about machines that we at Newsmax have not been able to verify any of those kinds of allegations. We just want to let people know that there's nothing substantive that we've seen. And let me read you something there. While there were some clear evidence of some cases of vote fraud and election irregularities, the election results in every state were certified, and Newsmax accepts the results as legal and final. The courts have also supported that view. So we wanted to talk to you about canceling culture, if you will. We don't want to relitigate the allegations that you're making, Mike, because we understand where you are. So let me ask you this. Do you think that this should be temporary because it appears to be permanent? Could you make an argument that it is temporary?
What?
Could you make an argument that this could be a temporary banning rather than permanent?
No, I want it to be a permanent because you know what? They did this because I'm revealing all the evidence on Friday of all the election fraud with these machines. So I'm sorry if you think it's not
Mike,
it's real.
can I ask our producers, can we get out of here, please? I don't want to have to keep going over this.
Actually,
we at Newsmax have not been able to verify any of those allegations that you're
Mike, hold on a second. Everybody hold on a second. Mike, hold on 1 second. Let's talk a little bit about just what is happening overall.
We are looking at every bad faith actor that has deliberately created and propagated falsehoods about Dominion and the processes that we were involved in.
Our ballots get calculated, many of them outside the United States, and are completely open to hacking, completely open to change. And it's being done by a company that specializes in voter fraud.
Our legal team is looking at, frankly, everyone, and we're not ruling anybody out.
No evidence has been offered that Dominion or Smartmatic used software or reprogrammed software that manipulated votes in the 2020 election.
If school zones were protected with security guards with guns, there would be no mass shootings at schools.
You know, I didn't even talk about it when I met with you guys. One, because it was just so common at that point before I was really in school. And also I didn't want to give them any bigger of a platform, but clearly now that they're in Congress, that's no longer the case. None of us want to be doing this, but we have to, because sadly corrupt elected officials like Marjorie Taylor Greene are in Congress and would rather choose to protect guns than children. And it's just a horrific reality. You know, can I just point out how ridiculous it is that it's on the survivors of gun violence to stand up to gun violence and be the ones to try to end it? Why do we have elected officials if that's the case? Why can't they do their jobs?
He had media coverage all over the place. I had zero. Guess what? I'm a gun owner. I'm an American citizen. And I have nothing, but this guy with his George Soros funding and his major liberal funding has got everything.
I don't know where the millions of dollars is that I've been quote unquote paid by George Soros is, but I really wish somebody would tell me so that I could have, you know, all of college and hopefully law or grad school, if I'm lucky enough to get in, you know, already paid for and be set and get my parents a nice place. But sadly, that money doesn't exist at all. My message to Kevin McCarthy is take all of her committee assignments away. Along with that, also don't support her when she runs for re-election again and try to get her primary. If you say this is not your party, actually call it out and hold her accountable. I think that the Biden administration honestly needs to do a bit of a better job of talking about gun violence, you know, in the first place. There are a lot of challenges that we understand that they've had to deal with, such as the pandemic, the major recession, the climate crisis, and others. But we also need to realize that we have an American epidemic on our hands that is killing nearly 40,000 Americans annually and was at a record level last year with some, in some demographics, the number of, you know, individuals affected going up nearly 40% in the past year. We need to confront this head on, and I really hope that the administration listens to us and actually acts on creating a national director of gun violence prevention.
I heard about motherhood today. 2 of those women, between them, have 6 children. They're mothers. One of them does not have children. And she's come to this body asking for more housing for people, for more health care for people, for more income for people. How awful. And they're not the Squad. They're Elon. They're Alexandria. And they're Rashida. They are people. They are our colleagues. And yes, you may have disagreements. But I don't know anybody, including Steve King, who you precluded from going on committees, for much less. And this is an AR-15 in the hands of Ms. Greene. This was on Facebook just a few months ago. That is a message of peace and reconciliation and peaceful democratic dialogue. The Squad's worst enemy, AR-15, in hand.
Sounds like the guns I fled.
I have never, ever seen that before. Is this a precedent-setting event? It is. Because the conduct, the tweeting, the QAnon association, I heard the disavowal of QAnon, I learned more. AR-15, Squad's worst nightmare. Is that what was intended to do? That each one of these ladies would have a nightmare about somebody with a gun. An AR-15 can carry up to a clip of 60 bullets. I urge my colleagues to look at that image and tell me what message you think it sends. Here she is, armed with a deadly assault rifle, pointing it toward 3 Democratic members. Now, the pictures are put together, you understand. They were not present. I understand that. And she captioned it, the Squad's worst nightmare. Yes, some people are having nightmares and fear. And some people who wanted to give other people nightmares committed sedition and broke into the House of Representatives and tried to stop us electing a president of the United States. These 3 faces are real people. There are 3 reasons we're here. But there are many other reasons we're here today. In 2019, during the same election cycle in which she ran, showed support for comments online that the quickest way to remove Speaker Pelosi from power would be, and I quote, a bullet to the head. Did any of you hear Steve King say anything like that? You removed him from all of his committees. But as I said, you did nothing. As a matter of fact, gave a standing ovation, as I understand. I wasn't there. What message does that send? What message does it send to have a standing ovation to give these 3 women nightmares? Indisputably, these are clear threats to commit or incite political violence. Not from years ago, but just months ago. Imagine the pain that these members' families must be experiencing when they see pictures like this one. Imagine what our children think, their children, or when they know their loved ones are walking the halls of Congress and may encounter harassment as it happened to Representative Bush. So I ask my colleagues on the other side of the aisle, when they take this vote, imagine your faces on this poster. Imagine it's a Democrat with the 8 or 15. Imagine what your response would be, and would you think that that person ought to be held accountable? But when acquiescence to the suggestion of violence or any kind is allowed to go unchecked, it is a cancer that metastasizes on the body politic of our nation, as we saw just a few days ago on the 6th of January. A cancer. That's how Senate Republican leader McConnell described it. He said, "Loony lies and conspiracy theories are a cancer for the Republican Party and our country." McConnell, should we stand silent in the face of that kind of activity? He continued, somebody who suggests that perhaps no airplane hit the Pentagon on 9/11, that horrifying school shootings were pre-staged, and that the Clintons crashed JFK Jr.'s airplane is not living in reality. It's not me talking. It's not a Democrat talking. It's Senator McConnell. This has nothing to do with the challenges facing American families or the robust debates on substance that can strengthen our parties. My colleagues across the aisle have an opportunity today to reclaim their party from the dangerous cancer of QAnon and violent conspiracy theories that promote and have demonstrably resulted in sedition and insurrection. Senator Romney, you remember Senator Romney? He was candidate for President of the United States on the Republican ticket, nominated in the Republican convention. He said of his party this week, "I think we should have nothing to do with Marjorie Taylor Greene and think we should repudiate the things she said and move away from her. Our big tent is not large enough to both accommodate conservatives and kooks." Not my word, his words. A Republican member of the United States Senate. Now, he's not a big buddy of Trump's, so apparently he didn't have to do what Trump suggested he do. And Senator Ernst, conservative woman from Iowa. She doesn't represent the party. I don't want her to be the face of our party. I think this is a great time for us to really talk about what we want to see in the upcoming years and continue to build. We don't need people that are promoting violence or anything like that. That's a Republican conservative senator. Republican senator and former governor of Florida, Rick Scott, said, a conservative Republican senator. That's not what the Republican Party stands for. Let me suggest to you, if it's not, vote with us. Vote with the House, not Democrats. Vote with the House of Representatives. Vote with good order and peace. Furthermore, Senator Young of Indiana said, there ought to be no place in the Republican Party for the kind of views espoused by Representative Greene. That's what McCarthy said when you kicked King off all of his committees. This is not something you haven't done. However, sadly, you left it to us to do your job. Representative Cole called her statements extraordinarily disturbing. He said that yesterday. It's an old quote. And Senator Thune asked his fellow Republicans in the House, do they want to be the party of limited government? I think the answer to that is yes. Or do they want to be the party of conspiracy theories and QAnon? Furthermore, Senator Young of Indiana said, there ought to be no place in the Republican Party for the kind of views espoused by Representative Greene. That's what your Republican colleagues have said. This is not partisan. This is about principle. And you can shake your head as much as you want. This is not about party. It's about whether or not you will vote for decency and truth, not being members' worst nightmare. I hope we can do it together. All of us embracing our humanity and our basic adherence to the Constitution. Edmund Burke, who I'd quoted earlier, said, "The only thing necessary for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing." Let us not do nothing. I often share another passage spoken so long ago by Edmund Burke when a new member arrives to serve in the House. It concerns the duty of a representative has to his or her constituents. His conclusion on that matter is that we owe them our unbiased opinion, mature judgment, and enlightened sense of conscience. What does your conscience tell you to do in light of this kind of assertion? Nothing? Burke told his own constituents that these virtues a representative does not derive from your pleasure, nor from the law and the Constitution. They are trust from providence, for the abuse of which you are deeply answerable. Your representative owes you not his industry only, but his judgment, and he betrays it instead of serving you if he sacrifices it to your opinion. This is not about polling. This is not about your base. This is about your conscience and your moral judgment. In other words, each of us ought to look inside our hearts to the answer we know is right and is best for the House and for our country. If the Republican Party, for less toxic language, took committee assignments away from Steve King, should they do less in this instance? There is no doubt that if somebody came to the Congress and had said before they came to Congress, "I am for violent revolution against the government of the United States of America," that your party would say, "That's not somebody we want to be associated with." That's not what she said. I do not assert that. But should we do less than you did for Steve King? For far less toxic language. Let us not do nothing. Mr. Speaker, let us do the right thing.